November 5th to 11th is Veterans Week, an opportunity for Canadians to honor the extraordinary efforts and sacrifices of our veterans and those who continue to serve. The Military Communications and Electronics Museum collects, preserves, and displays items pertaining to military communications and electronics heritage. Rory M. Corey, the museum's executive director, is here to tell us about the events planned for Veterans Week at the Military Communications and Electronics Museum. Thanks so much for being here today, Rory.
Thanks very much for having me.
I've seen the schedule. It's an action-packed week. Admittedly, some people like myself may have driven by the Military Communications and Electronics Museum or maybe haven't dug too deeply into it. So could you maybe tell us first a little bit about the museum itself and its significance here in Kingston?
Right, yeah, the museum's about 20,000 square feet, and we're actually two museums under one roof.
Oh, okay.
So we have the Military Communications and Electronics Museum and also the Royal Canadian Electrical and Mechanical Engineers Museum. And both of the museums relate to units that are or have been associated with Canadian Forces Base Kingston. There's tons of exhibits to see from both. There's a whole vehicle gallery to see as well. It's a chance for people to see their heritage, the military heritage associated with Canada. We have sculptures that are associated with the Vimy Memorial. Okay. So they're maquettes that were done up as models for the much larger figures that are at the Vimy Memorial. So those are pretty special. We have an Enigma machine, which is pretty cool for people to see. There's a lot to keep people occupied there.
And so why is it significant or important that we have these veterans events happening at the museum?
We'd just like people to get to know the museum a little bit better. Veterans Week is a perfect time for people to come and visit and to get reacquainted with the museum. Really, this is just a big opportunity for demystification of the base, of the military, of the museum, and just better connection with Kingston at large and area, with the base, with the military, with veterans. So we're trying to connect people and forge a better sense of understanding with everyone.
So maybe can you tell us about, let's say, the first event, starting with the Beaded Poppy Indigenous Workshop?
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of events going on throughout the week. As you say, the big thing launching it off will be the Beaded Poppy Workshop on November 3rd. It's actually being coordinated by the Kingston Defense Indigenous Advisory Group.
Oh, wonderful.
Who got a grant through the base to host this actually as a free event.
Oh, great.
But pre-registration is required.
Okay.
So if you check our website, there'll be information there. But basically, it's a chance for people to do some crafting and to have a poppy ready for if they plan on doing events for Indigenous Veterans Day on November 8th. So we've got some events, and they may have their own events. It would be a very appropriate thing for them to wear. But it's being run by a local artist.
And then November 5th, you've got a gathering celebration for the 100th anniversary of the RCAF.
So 2024 marks the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. So the Kingston Military Family Resource Center will actually be having the gathering, is what it's called. Another event to connect military veterans and the rest of the population in Kingston. Just a mix and mingle basically, but there'll also be some speakers on the 100th anniversary of the RCAF and some icebreakers, so it's a chance to really integrate the military and civilian worlds. And there'll be food as well, so it's 2:30 to 4 p.m. on the 5th there at the Kingston Military Family Resource Center on Lundy's Lane.
On the 8th, there's a celebration of Indigenous veterans?
That's right. So November 8th every year is Indigenous Veterans Day. So it's usually scheduled right next to Remembrance Day, so we can recognize specifically our Indigenous veterans. But we'll be having a series of events throughout the day. So starting off at the museum in the morning, we'll be having drummers and singers, and there'll be a smudging ceremony. And then in the afternoon at Reading Drill Hall on the base nearby, we'll be having more lectures, and there'll be some Indigenous food. Pre-registration is required for the afternoon event. Padre Tim Urington will be speaking about his connection with the Indigenous community.
On the evening of November 9th, there's a screening of the film Fallen heroes.
It's a film about the ramp ceremonies that happened in Afghanistan that was put together by Karen Storwick and Robert Curtin. I should note that all of the events are admission by donation throughout the week.
I know we've run through a lot of things there. If individuals heard little bits and pieces that they want to get more information on or just confirm dates or times, locations, pre-registration, what's the best way to get at that information?
Check our website, so it's candemuseum.org.
Okay.
And I should note that all of the events are sponsored through a couple of grants that were provided by the City of Kingston Heritage Fund that's run by the Kingston Association of Museums, so we really appreciate their support for that. And as I mentioned, the Beaded Poppy Workshop is in part sponsored by a grant from the base as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for being here today, Rory. I appreciate you sharing all this information with us, and I encourage you at home to visit the website, check out the events, and honor our veterans here in Kingston and beyond. Thank you so much.